Hey everyone, I hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video we'll be going through an unboxing of a high grade 1-48 Juggernaut, and this is a general purpose type version, and this particular kit and Juggernaut, I dare say, is from the anime series 86, and this kit was released by Bandai back in 2021. So this is pretty much falling under my grab a kit of some of these more recent anime type lines that have come out. At the point of this recording, the Petite Ritz, there we go, from Fate Grand Order was part of that buy kit. See how it is. Same with this Juggernaut, and there should be one more kit from another parallel type of kit line that I'll have a look to see what it's all about. Now, I haven't seen the anime yet. It's been on my to-do list for a while, as is a lot of things, so I'm not fully sure what to expect. So I'm definitely going in a little bit blind here, but the aesthetic looks interesting, so I'm definitely going to be intrigued with what I see with this kit, knowing that there are other additional kits for this particular series as well. So here we have the front of the box with the general purpose Juggernaut front and center. So looking at it, it's definitely some type of quadruped, I dare say, tank-like armored vehicle, sporting all sorts of weaponry on it. So that alone will be very interesting to see. We have the logo of 86 down at the bottom, and I believe these are the two main characters. And interestingly enough, it's at a 1-48 scale, so it will definitely be interesting to see how that goes during the build. So that's the front of the box. Definitely some very nice artwork there. In terms of the bottom of the box, I guess if we look at this part first, so we have a front look of the Juggernaut and a look at some of its included weapons. So it has a 57mm smooth bore cannon. It has wire anchors, which I dare say is reminiscent of a Tachikoma. And it also looks like it has two 12.7mm heavy machine guns in the front. And subject to, I dare say, who's piloting, they will have their own emblem. So that's the front of the Juggernaut. In terms of the back of the Juggernaut, so we get another view of the cannon. Looks like there will be a display base to help keep it stable, and there's some of the details included. There is also a combat support mecha, I suspect is included, but we will see. And it looks like there will be some miniaturized figures as well. Whether or not they're the same type of scale that we've seen from some of the Gundam pilots and various masquerades and things like that, we will find out in a little bit. Side of the box, pretty much just a rehash of the front of the box. And I dare say the top of the box? Yes, top of the box. So it has a bit of a series lineup. So there's two more Juggernauts. We have one that is a Shin use, so I suspect Shin is the pilot. And then there is a long-range cannon type of the Juggernaut, sporting, unsurprisingly, a long-range cannon. There is a Figure Art standard kit of Lena, which I have seen. It does look very good, but because I'm just toe dipping into the series, I haven't really committed. And then there's some further information about the anime series. So that was a nice look of the outside of the box. In terms of the inside of the box, what can we expect? 1, 2, 3 bags of runners and a manual at the bottom in very typical Bandai fashion. So I will crack open these bags and then we can have a better look at the manual the runners included, and I can already see a PVC wire. So let that be a caution to anyone buying this kit. Be careful. There's some stuff in there that you definitely do not want to throw out. And with everything now out of the box and the bags, here we have the front of the manual. So first top half of the manual is just a rehash of what we saw on the front of the box. And the bottom half, we do have a fairly lengthy text blurb there. There's a bit of an introduction to what to expect, well, story-wise of the anime. And then we have the two characters. I'm not going to make an attempt to try and pronounce their names, other than Lena, which is fairly self-explanatory. That's the front of the manual. In terms of the back of the manual, so we have a front and rear shot of the Juggernaut, as well as a rehash of the emblems. There is a nice little blurb here as well. And then we have a very extensive color guide. So there's a color guide for the little support mecha, which I can confirm is not in that color in the plastic. We have the two figures and the Juggernaut itself. I won't go through all of those colors because there's a fairly wide color palette, but the colors that it comes in isn't too bad. But I think a kit like this does have a good opportunity to go a bit, maybe not crazy, but it's definitely an opportunity to do dry brushing and things like that to get your more realistic battle damage and things like that. And to think, once upon a time I remembered all those terms from painting, but seem to have forgotten half of them. Now, inside the manual, parts list as we usually expect from a Bandai manual. A, 2 B's, 2 C's, a D, an F, and some stickers. We'll see that in a minute. In terms of the build, so we do start with the body assemble, and interestingly enough, throughout the build there are more little text blurbs describing bits and pieces. So we have a blurb about the cockpit, the engine, and a sensor. So that's definitely all part of the main body assembly. Moving into the middle of the manual, there's some text about the external armor before we move into the legs. Now it looks like it doesn't matter which leg is which, it's basically a 4 times rule with the legs. And there's also a blurb about the legs. Then we move into the smoothbore cannon assembly and how to attach it, and of course there is a blurb about that. And then lastly, going into the color splash pages, we have more information about some of these weapons. So we have the wire anchor, the machine gun, and there's even a case ejecting action from the smoothbore cannon. And then on the very last page, some of the opening and closing gimmicks and articulation. Some of the articulation on the heavy machine guns, how to open the cockpit, the display base, assembling Lena, who is actually surprisingly in 2 pieces, and the Barrett assembly, which isn't too bad either. So that was the manual. I'm actually quite impressed by the amount of items you get to work with as part of this build. So that was the manual, which we will come back to later on, somewhat. The transfer sticker sheet. So as we've seen from the box and the manual, you basically get to pick a emblem for one of the pilots, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Before I forget, and this will be for the wire anchors, there are 2 PVC black wires to be very mindful of when assembling this kit. So yes, make sure you have 2 of these, don't lose them. Do not be like me. Not that I've lost a PVC wire in a while, but in saying that, touch wood, which this desk is. Okay, looking at the runners, we have a multicolor A runner. Now from what I can tell, and I'm not sure how well it will come up on the camera, majority of these parts are in a dark blue. We have some red down here, the clear plastic for parts of the action base, and then we have some, I was going to say white, but I feel it's probably more ivory colored pieces as well. So that's the A runner. Definitely a good amount of pieces on a multicolor A runner. And looking at some of these pieces, the detailing will be both a blessing and a curse. So if you're one of those types of people who like to dirty up their kits, especially something like this, the detailing will not be an issue at all. In fact, a lot of dry brushing, inking and stuff like that, the kit will probably look perfect. We have B1 and B2 in this dark blue once again. Now B2 looks to be a carbon copy of a very good chunk of B1, with B1 having the unique pieces down here, which I suspect are probably the machine guns. So that's B2. Take that away. So we do have a copy of all that. So this is a single flat color. As I mentioned, this is the dark blue. A lot of small components to build through as well, so definitely a different take on things. So B1 and B2. We have C1 and C2. Now C2 is a carbon copy of a good chunk of C1, and the rest of C1 in terms of the unique parts will be the two characters, one of which will be sitting, one of which will be standing. And of course they are the one color. And like we saw in the A runner, I'm calling this ivory, but it does feel like it's an off-white of some description. So C1 and C2. We have a D runner back in that dark blue. So we know this will be the support mech, the Barrett, and I'm going to wager most of this is part of the cannon. So that's the D runner. And the very last runner is the F runner, also in dark blue. And once again, I'm wagering the cannon. So that brings us to an end of the unboxing of the high grade 1-48 Juggernaut general purpose type. I'm looking forward to building this. Now I know I say that all the time, but I think for this one I say it because it's also different. So yes, it's still Bandai, and that's besides the point, but in terms of the actual kit itself, it's different from the usual. It's not a typical bipedal humanoid mecha. It's not a Lego kit. And things like that. So it's definitely something different in terms of its general look and chassis and design, which I think is always a nice little comforting relief. And I remember back to when I did the high grade Danazine from Gundam Age, how very refreshing the build was, because it was something highly unusual in the sense that whilst it did have some bipedal look about it, it didn't have the traditional humanoid form. So I think this Juggernaut, and I feel a lot of these 86 kits, will probably be a breath of fresh air for those who want something of Bandai to build, but need a break from the two-legged mechanical robots. So I think that'll be part of the huge novelty of building this in time, having that refreshing and different outlook. Thank you very much for watching this unboxing video. Feel free to leave a like, a comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account, link below. Stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in a future video. See ya.